I've just had the pleasure of watching an hour of Nigel Farage presenting Britain's Great Wealth Revival, effectively an hour-long sales pitch, and I won't make you wait like he did to find the punchline. The punchline is it's a £99 a year investment newsletter subscription. But what I'd like to do in this video over the next few minutes is firstly go through some of the scariest points in this video sales pitch from Nigel Farage, including a point I think you might have missed if you did watch it. Also, I'd like to deconstruct and share my opinion on the 3 pillars of wealth building that this investment newsletter scheme seems to be presenting. And finally, explain why, firstly, you would be mad to sign up and give away £99 a year for this investment newsletter. And even more so, secondly, you would be absolutely crazy to follow any of its advice. So I've got the video loaded up on my laptop. I'm going to pop the headphones on and I can press play. I won't play through the entire 54 minutes for you, but I will like to share some highlights as I go through this video.
And I suspect dear to you too. Something that defines who we are and what we stand for. What I'm talking about is as important as the right for you to speak freely.
So right off the bat here, Nigel Farage is aligning this wealth management project with our right to speak freely. There's clearly a lot of crossover in what Farage does when it comes to politics and his political opinions, particularly around Brexit, and then this new financial project that he's launched via this Fortune and Freedom newsletter. So lots of the sort of same language that we hear from his political career being fed through, and this is going to appeal to his typical audience. It's going to appeal to the sort of people who think that Nigel Farage can do no wrong, that he is a trusted source of information and advice when it comes to this stuff. So watch out for lots of these references in this video to Brexit type language.
Freely. The right for you and I to have different views about things and to think for ourselves. The right for you to challenge those in power. I'm talking about the right to create wealth and control your own financial destiny.
So there you have it again, the right to control your own financial destiny. I don't think it's ever been in question that we have that right or don't have that right. So it's a very odd thing to claim that this project is giving us. In the same way as we have a right to free speech, of course we have a right to control our own financial destiny.
People will not know this, but my background is in finance, not politics. I come from a family of stockbrokers. Both my grandfather and father worked in a city. Between the 3 of us, our family has spent more than a century working in financial markets.
This claim from Nigel Farage that he has a background in finance and not politics, I find this one a little bit odd. Now, yes, his father and grandfather worked as commodity traders. He refers to them there as a family of stockbrokers, and it's fair to say that Farage himself was never a stockbroker. He worked as a commodities trader on the London Metal Exchange, and going back quite some time as well, about 20 years or so. That, and I've said this before in a previous video about Fortune and Freedom, that has little to no relevance to personal finance, to retail investment. Commodities trading is a very specialised form of trading, of speculation. It's not really about investing money. It's about speculating on the market movement of prices in the commodity markets. I find it a very odd thing to do, to try and build authority, to claim that he's got 100 years of family experience in stockbroking. This has really nothing to do with investing, with cash management, with wealth management.
It's time to meet my man on the inside.
I trust Rob Marstrand, and that's why I'm bringing him in to help you.
So here we have the introduction of Farage's partner in this investment newsletter scheme. He's called Rob Marstrand. Did a bit of Googling about him, and we'd been given a bit of a spoiler beforehand in some of the recent newsletters that Nigel would be introducing Rob Marstrand in this video. And there's not much about him online, I have to say. I found his LinkedIn profile. It does show his career for a private bank. Again, quite a specialist investment trading activity, not really personal financial management. And he is, of course, an author and editor of another financial newsletter, investment newsletter, which is published under the same publishers as Fortune and Freedom. He lives in Argentina. Read into that what you may. He's not a UK resident investor or investment expert, but he is clearly partnering here with Nigel Farage to make these recommendations, to give these tips that we'll come on here about in just a second.
A lot of people are telling me that they have been underserved by the mainstream financial establishment, and they're telling me they've been left high and dry when disasters happen. I'd like to share some of their messages with you today, because I want to highlight the disappointing way many people feel they have been treated.
I've been trying to retrieve pension fund from my provider, who seems extremely reluctant to pay out a fund, as is my right.
So Nigel Farage goes on in this part of the video to share testimonials from real people, the man on the street, to give the impression that we're all in it together and that people are badly treated by this giant financial services machine, this financial elite that he talks about all the time. That first testimonial, somebody wanting to get hold of the full value of their pension fund, not being able to, there's just not enough information there. There's not enough context to understand what they're talking about. Are they talking about money that's within a defined benefit pension, for example, a final salary pension, where it's less than £30,000 of cash equivalent transfer value? So maybe this person's feeling a bit aggrieved that the government says you have to seek financial advice before you can unlock that pension, before you can transfer it to a defined contribution pension. Are they talking about the difference between a fund value in a pension and a transfer value? So maybe there's some exit penalties involved in that pension pot. Perhaps they're talking about a pension that's got tied up in some dodgy, unregulated investment scheme and has no liquidity, no option to cash in. We just don't know from what that testimonial says which of those, if any, it is. But it's all about getting the viewer on side, isn't it? Making them believe, gosh, yes, let's fight this unseen, unknown financial establishment.
I once had a private stockbroker, but all he did is lose me money.
Again, vague. I once had a private stockbroker, but all he did was lose me money. Okay, fine. I really don't know what to say about that, because yes, stockbrokers do lose people money sometimes, but again, the man in the street, the typical man, woman, child out there who invests money, do they go to a private stockbroker? I think that just tries to sort of ramp up this feeling of a financial elite that Nigel Farage and his crew are battling against, and that's not the reality for most people who invest money.
Zero interest on cash savings and not making any stock market gains, as the fund manager fees cancel out any gains on investments.
Okay, so you can get better than 0% returns on cash investments. You have to shop around, as has always been the case, to get the best, most competitive rates. Zero returns on fund manager investments because of the fees being charged. Don't really buy into that, particularly given the past year we've had of stock market performance. If you invested and you stayed invested, even if you picked fairly average run-of-the-mill funds, you would have done okay this year after fees. I don't really see that one as being a very real testimonial either.
Financial advisor said I should invest £80,000 in a scheme over 4 years and I would see a return of 24%. I lost £4,000. The only person to make money was the advisor, his fee.
Again, don't really know what to say about that one. A financial advisor should never be promising you a certain level of return over a certain period of time. The only exception, and what I think that one probably relates to, is what's called a structured investment product, which does have a almost fixed level of return, assuming the stock market does a certain thing. So they relate it to a stock market index. They buy derivatives to offset the risk. We've never recommended those. I think most financial advisors don't recommend them, because you're removing the risk associated with the volatility of the markets and replacing it with the risk of default. So the financial institution, typically a bank that backs up those structured products, may not be able to afford, may lose its financial rating, may not be able to afford to back up the products, and you may lose money that way. And also, we don't know whether the financial market indexes are going to reach a certain level by a certain period of time, particularly over 4 years. It seems to me to be quite a short time period. £80,000 invested, lost £4,000 over 4 years, but the financial advisor still got paid his or her fees, seems to be the gripe there.
I had pension funds with Equitable Life. So badly let down when that organisation collapsed. I also have a pension with Thomas Cook, so that problem is really underfunded private pensions of the defined benefit nature. In both instances, I don't know whether it is the regulators, the government, or irresponsible companies that are to blame. It isn't me.
Yeah, it's not you as an individual who's to blame for the Equitable Life situation or for the Thomas Cook pension scheme being underfunded. Equitable Life pension holders received compensation. They were compensated for their losses. It took a long time, but the financial system backed that up and compensation was paid out. An underfunded defined benefit final salary pension scheme like the Thomas Cook scheme, they exist, but really what it comes down to is that many schemes are underfunded. Those sponsoring employers like Thomas Cook are making promises to pensioners to pay out a pension in the future, and if the scheme's underfunded, they have to make up the shortfall. If the scheme was to fail, as we're likely to see more recently with Arcadia Group on the high street, maybe even Debenhams, then if the scheme does fail and it falls into the pension protection fund, you receive 90% protection at that stage if you haven't yet retired or if you're below the scheme retirement age. So these things happen. I think there's plenty of information out there, particularly Equitable Life was a long time ago. This is not a recent phenomenon. So lots of information out there. Educate yourself, work out and find out what went wrong and who was responsible. As I say, compensation was paid.
Sickening, isn't it? This is a big issue in Britain right now. A lot of people feel this way. The finger is
so
pointed
Farage
at
says
them.
this is sickening. He says it's a big issue in Britain right now. It's not a big issue in Britain, Nigel. I'm afraid it's not. You're looking at a historical example there in that most recent one, Equitable Life. That's not a current thing. That's not something that's going on. Yes, there are bad eggs out there. Yes, there are failed investment schemes out there. I'm sorry to say that, but it is in the minority. And whenever it happens, if regulated advice is sought, if you work with a regulated financial advisor or a regulated product provider, you have recourse to the Financial Services Compensation Scheme should things go wrong, and you don't lose your money. But if you don't use a regulated advisor and or a regulated provider, you do not get to tap into the Financial Services Compensation Scheme should, in the very rare instance, things go wrong. And therefore you are playing with fire if you go it alone and you don't have that backup, particularly if you go for unregulated or overseas investments which don't have that level of protection.
I have managed to quadruple my pension fund through carefully picking some good investments through my SIP. If my languishing had been left to the financial industry, I'm confident that I would potentially miss out on a lot of growth in my pension fund. I'm now looking forward to retiring at 55 next year.
So Paul has quadrupled his pension fund. He calls it an SIP. We call it an SIPP or a SIP. He's moved money, his pension money is into a self-invested personal pension and picked investments which have quadrupled. Doesn't tell us the timescale, and I'm going to come on to talk a little bit about that in a second. That's a bit of a concern throughout this video, and also says that if he'd left the money languishing in the financial industry, it would have not performed as well. He would have missed out on a lot of that growth in his pension fund. There's no way of knowing that, is there? He doesn't know how the advisor he may have had before or how investment funds he would have picked before would have performed. And he's looking forward to retiring at 55 next year. Fantastic. Early retirement is a really laudable financial goal to have. There is a big financial independence, retire early movement, not just here in the UK, but globally, which is driving people towards that dream of an early retirement. But again, there's no detail here. We don't know the timescales. We don't know the sorts of investments that he was picking. In retrospect, Paul refers to them as good investments. But anything that can quadruple in, assuming that was a quick quadrupling of his money, can quite as easily and quite as quickly go the same direction in the other direction, same quantum in the other direction. So that again worries me as a testimonial.
I've managed a pension of mine for 5 years, turning 80,000 into £140,000. I took a chance and it paid off. I've now taken my 25% tax-free lump sum from this and moved the rest somewhere else now I'm nearing retirement.
Oh, Margaret. Oh, I had to start with this one. So over 5 years, turned £80,000 into £140,000. Doesn't tell us how much risk was taken, but I'm assuming quite a significant amount of risk in order to nearly double the value of a pension fund in 5 years. And if something can double that quickly, it can halve in value that quickly as well. Risk and reward are closely related. If you take that much risk with your money, then it can go in the other direction too. She's taken a 25% tax-free lump sum from her pension, nothing wrong with that. But this one worries me. Move the rest somewhere else now I'm nearing retirement. Why? Why would you take money out of a tax-advantaged pension pot and move it into what is presumably a taxable environment? You'd have to pay tax, pay income tax to take the money out of that pension pot in the first place. So you suffer a big tax hit first, and then you're going to be taxed on any future returns from that money. That, to me, looks and sounds like a very, very bad idea.
I asked my wealth manager about the evolving trends. His eyes would glaze over, but he's still got around £600 a month in fees for putting in place crap funds. My private SIP is up 45% in 9 months. I am fairly confident I can outperform him and remove his fees.
Jeremy, again, it's another testimonial designed to make it look like it's easy to move your pension fund into a self-invested personal pension, into a SIP, to pick your own investments and then to outperform wealth managers. It could be that he had a pretty lousy wealth manager, a lousy financial advisor that didn't really take an interest in what was going on, but probably more importantly, didn't want to explain to his client, to Jeremy, why he was making the investment recommendations he was. And I think communication's key to this. I would be horrified to think that any of our clients at Informed Choice didn't know and understand the reason and the purpose behind every constituent part of their investment portfolio. Anything that goes up 45% in 9 months, wow, the risk level there. And Jeremy, with the greatest of respect, it sounds like you got lucky. And luck is not a repeatable skill. It's not something you can expect to happen time and time again. It's lovely for Nigel Farage to send a message to say, move money into a personal pension, a self-invested personal pension, make your own investment decisions and watch it almost go up 45% in 9 months. That is luck. The best investment professionals in the world, Warren Buffett, for example, who Nigel Farage talks about later in the video, they don't do that sort of thing. They don't get those sorts of returns because this sort of investing is not investing, it's speculation. It's taking a punt on something. And it can either go right, as it seems to have done in this self-selected testimonial here, or it can go very, very badly wrong. The opposite can happen. And a great deal of money can be lost very, very quickly.
It's time to meet my man on the inside.
So here we go, we're going to meet Rob Marstrand. This is the introduction. This is going to be Nigel Farage setting up his experience, his expertise, his credibility. So lots of stats and lots of background CV items thrown at us over the next few minutes just to really sort of build this man up, that we can trust him, that we should be listening to his investment tips.
For 15 years, he travelled the world working for the Swiss banking giant UBS, heading up multi-million-pound deals in almost every corner.
It's an impressive CV, no denying that at all. There's very little about this chap, Rob Marstrand, on the internet. When you look for him on Google, you get lots of results from his investment newsletter page. The website of Wealth is password protected. It's a WordPress site with a password protected front page, so you don't sort of see what that's about. He had that role as a director of his local housing association in London for a while, now resigned as a director there. Lives in Argentina, lives in Buenos Aires, according to his LinkedIn profile, but very, very little to substantiate a lot of these claims being made in this video.
He managed to get out of the banking system right before the 2008 crash, selling all of his banking shares and options, cashing in his stock portfolio and moving into gold.
So here we go with some examples and sort of hand-selected examples of the opportunities that Rob Marstrand identified. And I'll explain in just a second why it's important that these are hand-selected, hand-picked performance stats that we're seeing here.
Did it by sharing opportunities like these. Altria, 178% gain. On the 18th of June 2010, Rob spotted a good opportunity and advised his followers to move into a very beaten-down sector, selling out with a huge profit on the 31st of October 2014. Vestas Wind Systems, 37.5% gain. Taking advantage of the surge in clean energy markets, on the 26th of January 2018, Rob recommended his readers to buy shares in this world-leading wind turbine manufacturer and sold it on the 8th of April 2019. Lippo Malls Indonesia Retail Trust, 59% gain. On the 18th of October 2010, Rob shared an international opportunity with his subscribers on what he saw as a deeply undervalued trust in a booming emerging market, selling out on the 9th of May 2013 for a near 60% gain.
So 3 examples apparently of Rob Marstrand's investment successes in the past. This one really winds me up. So as a regulated, as an authorised firm in the UK with the Financial Conduct Authority behind us, whenever we present past performance like this, we have to follow a series of rules. And we're not allowed to be so selective about the stats that we present. We have to give complete time periods up to the last 5 years of performance. We can't pick and choose. We can't just pick some winners to display. We have to show the whole picture. And this is very, very self-selecting here. It's very much picking just a few examples to make it look great. What about all of the other tips that Rob Marstrand's given to his investment newsletter subscribers? What about the investment failures that he's had as well as the investment wins? Because nobody's perfect in this world of investing. People pick losers as much as they pick winners, and this is just very selective. You read the small print below this video on the Fortune and Freedom newsletter website, and it does go on to explain that some of these were tips that Marstrand picked for his newsletter subscribers. Others were as part of his work in a family office in an investment advisory business. So there's a bit of a blend here of the stuff, the stats that they're picking and choosing from. There is a risk warning there. Past performance is not a reliable indicator of future returns, but they are selling past performance here. They're selling a few select examples examples of how this has performed in the past. As an investor, you have to be an absolute fool to pick investments based on past performance, and even to pick investment advisors. No investment advisor should ever sell themselves, should ever sell their credibility, their reputation based on past performance. It's a huge, huge red flag and something to watch out for.
I want to point out that past performance is not an indicator of future results.
Well, thanks for that, Nigel. Past performance is not an indicator of future results, but this video majors on past performance. So as much as you tell us this, as much as you flash that risk warning up across the bottom of the page, it's what people are seeing when they watch this video. They're seeing those past performance, quite impressive past performance figures. They believe that Rob Marstrand can get them these winners every single time. And we know that's not the case, but I really fear for some of the people who watch this video who believe it is, because they're selecting winners and they're showing us the winners, they're not showing us the losers.
And I'm selecting some good examples from Rob's long track record to help you see why I brought him in to help lead this wealth revival for you and for thousands of others.
And as Farage admitting that he's picked some good examples, he's picking the winners to show you. He hasn't picked the whole picture, he hasn't shown you the big picture here, just a few select examples of winners.
Is Rob right every time? Of course not. Has some of Rob's investments gone against him? Of course they have. But I believe he has the acumen and knack for getting into the right investment at the right time.
Sometimes he gets into the right investment at the right time. Sometimes. They're saying now, of course, some of his investments go against him, but why not show us those? Why not tell us about his losers as well as his winners? Because subscribers to this scheme that's coming along at the end of the video, they're going to get presented with all the losers as well as a few of the winners. And overall, because they don't know which ones in advance are going to be the winners or losers, just as Nigel Farage doesn't, just as Rob Marstrand doesn't know what's going to happen next. The subscribers to this newsletter, if they go pile in for everything they're recommended, they are going to get probably more losers than they get winners.
In fact, right now, Rob thinks that many areas of the market are cheap and have been overlooked and do pay an income.
I wonder when this video was shot, when that script was written, because it's very hard to look at the investment market globally right now and see areas that you would call cheap by historical standards, particularly income payers. So that one is a bit of a red flag to me in terms of the timing of this video. And there was another point in there earlier in the video, which I'd skip past. Nigel Farage made reference to the EU referendum being nearly 4 years ago. And of course it was 4.5 years ago now. And that makes me think that this script, this mix of video content and also these sort of slides that are being shared, the slides aspect, I think, was put together and recorded much earlier this year, before June certainly, and therefore some of the statements being made here don't quite add up as we're watching it on the 14th of December 2020.
Yours today, the REIT move, how to collect rent without the headache of being a landlord.
Just a type of property fund, a commercial property fund, and they pay away an income, so you pay income tax rather than capital gains tax. There's nothing special about them. They've been around for probably over 100 years. The tax structure of a REIT is a more recent thing, but again, for at least a decade, I'd say. And it's just a commercial property investment fund. Is now really a good time to be getting into commercial property? We're seeing what's happening on the high street, the death, the collapse of retail. We're seeing a work from home revolution. And even locally here, I'm seeing many landlords now question whether they can maintain offices, and instead if they decide to move them into residential conversions. Yet the first recommendation on the list here is a REIT, to go into real estate investment trust, to go into commercial property funds. Not convinced it's the right time or particularly good idea to make that a core pillar of your portfolio.
Yours today, 3 prime British stocks for the top of your watch list.
Right, step 2, buy the best of British. We're at 34.23 in the video now. Okay, so this is the second core pillar of this, and this is picking some stocks that Marstrand believes will do well post-Brexit. We've got the end of the transition period coming up on the 31st of December 2020. As I record this, we still don't have a trade deal with the EU. So which British companies are going to do well post-Brexit? We don't know. We can't know for sure which ones it's going to be. Yet we're going to see some stock tips.
There are some great bargain companies out there right now. They're trading at levels that Rob is very excited about. As soon as they hit his buy territory, I'll send you an alert to pull the trigger.
So it seems what's being offered here is a buy list, effectively, or a watch list of British companies. And then at some point in the future, you're going to get a trade-in alert. You're going to get a notification to say, I think the price is now at such a level when it's a good opportunity to buy. Now, we don't know in advance what those trading levels are going to be. So you may get the alert based on speculation at the time because of a future event. And there's no guarantees with this. Selling trading alerts like this is completely unregulated. There are no regulations to back it up. It's viewed as education. It's even viewed as entertainment. It's not advice. It's never an advice to buy a particular company, a particular stock, particular equity. I feel very, very uncomfortable about this idea of a watch list and then backed up by trading alerts. I think people can lose an awful lot of money doing this.
Rob will get you up to speed on the world-leading firm with a track record of great growth and dividend payouts. The UK pub chain with huge bounce-back potential when lockdown ends.
Oh, he means Wetherspoons, doesn't he? Jesus Christ.
And the innovative online estate agent that could thrive from pent-up demand.
Another flag there, this script may have been recorded much earlier in the year because, yes, there was pent-up demand from property buyers in the UK when that first lockdown ended in June, and it's helping, along with some other factors, to really push up the property market this year. We've got the stamp duty holiday until the end of next March. We've got ultra low interest rates, so very cheap borrowing at the moment. But is it fair to say there is still pent-up demand in the property market? If anything, that pent-up demand is over, and we're now starting to look at the market stagnating over the coming months, particularly with the stamp duty holiday coming to an end. I think this script was written a lot earlier in the year.
And that's why he's prepared a third investment guide for you. Yours today. Hard money, the best way to own gold.
And we're on to gold. Of course, we're on to gold. It's Farage's favourite investment type because he used to work on the London Metal Exchange, of course. Gold is not a good investment for the majority of investors for reasons I've shared before, but it is a non-income producing asset. I know the gold bugs absolutely love it. They believe it's an effective hedge against price inflation, which could rise in the future. It's not. It's difficult and expensive to own and to trade. It's incredibly speculative. It can be very volatile in terms of its price because traders speculate on its value. It doesn't actually have a tangible investment value because it's non-income producing. And they're talking here about holding physical gold. Very, very difficult to do in a way that's cost effective, in a way that actually offers you any financial security. So gold appears to be the third pillar of this wealth blueprint. It would be remiss of me, wouldn't it, not to take advantage of Nigel Farage standing in front of a blue screen to make him look silly for a second. Never ever record your video standing in front of a blue screen or a green screen. Just a top tip there. Right, I'm skipping towards the end of the video now. We're at 46 minutes in and we're starting to get the pitch, what you actually get in return for your money. So there's some extra bonus items, some add-ons. This is fairly common for an investment sales pitch like this. It's a very long presentation, so it wears you down a little bit the longer you watch it. Lots and lots of stats being thrown at you, and then lots of added value, added benefits being offered to you as part of the bundle. So people who sell schemes like this like to throw lots of things into a package to make it look like you're getting great value, to make it look like a bit of a no-brainer, this purchase at the end of it. And this opportunity to become a charter member of UK Independent Wealth, whatever that means. So the benefits, 12 wealth growing ideas every year. Every month, Rob Marstrand and Nigel Farage writing with your issue of UK Independent Wealth. Latest thinking on the biggest issues facing British investors, threats to your money and opportunities you can capitalise on. Let's keep throwing these little bonuses into the pot to make it look like it's really good value. UK stocks with real money-making potentials, again, these buy signals we were talking about. Their T-chest portfolio. I've heard of a war chest portfolio. I'm not sure what's in a T-chest portfolio. So lots and lots of things here. And they're running model portfolios to show you how you might follow along and invest. Again, that's not authorised. It's not regulated in the UK. It's not subject to FCA regulations. Anyone can do that. And you can follow along and you might make some money, but you might lose some money. If you lose money, you will have no recourse to a financial ombudsman. You'll have no recourse to a financial services compensation scheme. You can't complain to anyone. You're taking all of your own risks here.
And we're going to do it for a fee that'll put most industry professionals to shame. 1 year of UK Independent Wealth costs just £199.
There we go then, there's the pitch, £199 for a year's subscription to UK Independent Wealth. Nigel Farage, interestingly there, making some comparisons to the cost of actual financial advice and financial planning. It's not comparable. What you get by working with a financial advisor is not comparable with what you get by reading an investment newsletter for £199 a year, that's the cost of subscription. So in conclusion here, looking through all of this, looking through that video, having spent nearly an hour of my life going through it so you don't have to, my conclusion here is you would be mad to part with £199 a year to get that investment newsletter full of tips, full of suggestions, and have no recourse, have no requirement for them to make sure it's suitable for you, to take into account the risks you'd be taking, to do anything when things go wrong. Yeah, they can pick things here time and time again which go wrong. You have no recourse to any sorts of regulation, any sorts of complaints arbitration, any sorts of compensation. You'd be crazy to do it, but you'd be incredibly stupid, you'd be foolish to both do that and then follow the tips. You will damage your wealth if you do that. I can assure you of that. If you follow trading signals, if you go down this approach of REITs are the best thing since sliced bread, 3 British stocks which might surge after Brexit, and gold, you are going into a very speculative, very, very high risk investment portfolio that's probably not suited to your individual needs, objectives, financial goals, dreams, everything you want to do with your money in life. This is a really, really bad idea. I'm just going to finish off the video and see if there's anything else at the end.
That's my goal here, to help you succeed. That's why I've created this presentation, and that is why I've started this new crusade, which begins with you accepting my invitation to try out UK Independent Wealth. Click the link below this video, start your 90-day trial.
This is 1980s sales pitching stuff, isn't it? It really is. It would be funny if it wasn't so serious. This is your personal finance. This is your wealth at stake here. If you follow along with the sorts of things being recommended in this video that are going to be recommended in this UK Independent Wealth, I think it was called, then yeah, this is not going to be your great wealth revival. This is very likely to be the time when you lose a significant amount of money, but it's not subject to regulation. It's not subject to any sort of recourse or comeback when things go wrong. It's a scary system, and I think that politicians should really take note of this, that they should lobby for changes to regulation to bring things like this under regulatory control, because as soon as you start sharing asset class tips and stock tips, that, to my mind, has crossed the line, particularly when you're illustrating it with selective past performance and you're not showing the losers, you're only showing the winners. So that was my reaction to Britain's Great Wealth Revival from Nigel Farage, from Rob Marstrand. There's some scary stuff to come, I'm sure, but that video was a bad sales pitch. It was a very old school sales pitch, and what you're going to get if you sign up for £199 a year, I've no doubt will be similarly old school as well. So do watch out, do protect your wealth. I hope you found this video interesting. I'm dying to read your comments below. I'm sure there'll be lots of comments as there were on the last video I made about fortune and freedom as well. But do leave a comment below, do press that like button, please subscribe for more videos like this in the future too. Until next time, thank you for watching. I'm Martin Bamford, and when it comes to your money, the more you know, the faster it can grow.